All Hit Radio.
Welcome to the X Zone, a place where fact is fiction and fiction is reality. Now, here's your host, Rob McConnell.
And welcome back to the X Zone, everyone. My name is Rob McConnell. We're coming to you from our broadcast center in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada. Worldwide toll-free, 800-610-7035. My email address is xzone@xzoneradiotv.com. On all social media sites, X Zone Radio TV, and our website where you can listen to the X Zone 24/7, 365 is www.xzoneradiotv.com. And we're coming to you around the world on the X Zone Broadcast Network and our fine and growing family of broadcast affiliates, internet affiliates, and satellite programming providers. My guest this hour is Tonya Melendez. She developed her highly intuitive gifts as a young adult to become an internationally renowned tarot life coach. She is a licensed spiritual teacher, counselor, psychic medium, published author, radio and TV personality, certified yoga instructor, and science and religious science practitioner. Now, aside from her spiritual path, Tonya also holds a master's degree in library and information science and school library media. She holds a bachelor's degree in English with a minor in women's studies and concentration in creative writing. Joining me now is Tonya Melendez. And Tonya, welcome to the X Zone.
Thank you so much, Rob, for having me. I'm so grateful to be a part of the show.
Oh, we're so happy that you're here with us. But how did, it says that you started as a young adult on your path to becoming the internationally renowned tarot life coach that you are today. What brought you to that point where you realized that you were gifted and that you, Tonya, were going to be on the path that you've been on ever since?
Well, that is such a good question. So when I was very young, I realized that I could see things and feel things. I was very sensitive and still am so much. And, of course, I would tell the adults in my life, my family, that I could see things and I could hear things, and they told me I was crazy. But I knew I wasn't crazy, and so I started going to the library. I would go to the library and bring home books, bags and bags of books of astrology and numerology and whatever I could get my hands on, which is also funny that I became a librarian, but it's no coincidence. I know everything happens for a reason. And so I just really started honing it and just really started allowing myself to see what I saw. And we lived in an area next to a creek and a ravine, so I was right next to nature, and it really helped me explore and really open in amazing ways. And then, of course, life got in the way, and I shifted and changed, and then I decided, of course, I had to get a job, and
Sure.
So I became a librarian, and that was my, original love with the books, and I figured if I was still near the books, I could still get more information. And then how I became the tarot life coach is I had been doing little readings for my friends and family and things like that, and it started really going to a Center for Spiritual Living in Chicago, my hometown, and it reconnected me to that energy that I had lost as a child. And I was so excited to then start doing more, and I started doing tarot readings in a coffee shop in Oak Park, Illinois, and it just changed my life. I quit my job as a librarian, and I have not looked back since, and
Wow.
It's been an amazing journey.
It seems that more and more people in today's society, no matter how high-tech we are, still want to know from a person like yourself, a tarot reader, a tarot life coach, a psychic medium, a spiritual teacher. They want direction. Why do you think that is?
Absolutely. I think because there's this sense that we all know that there is a better way of being, that there is a better connection. And people like myself that are highly in tune, we're just the channels. We're the messengers for the people that feel lost. Because no one, to me, is ultimately lost. It's just we have forgotten. And a highly intuitive person like myself, being able to connect with past loved ones, being able to connect with past and the future as well as the present, it gives people hope. And that's one of the first things that I realize with people is people need hope and faith to move forward, to change something, because without that, it's all going to be okay, kind of go ahead. People will remain in their stuckness and in their story and in their way, but we all know that there's something more. And so for myself, to be a conduit, it brings me so much joy to align somebody up with the message that they're supposed to be an artist, and then they create something, and then that's evolved.
Tonya, we've got to take a break here. Please give us a second here to do a commercial break. Exonation, Tonya Melendez is our guest. www.tarotlifecoach.com. We'll be back. Don't go away. And welcome back, everyone. This is the X Zone. My guest this hour is Tonya Melendez, and her website is www.tarotlifecoach.com. And she also has a blog spot, www.thesirenandsage.blogspot.com. What are some of the useful ways to access our inner guidance to help us through these very trying times in our lives?
Rob, I'm going to say the first thing that we need to do is to pray. And I know a lot of people have these connotations of what prayer is and what prayer does and how you should pray, but there's no way of doing it. It's just you having a conversation with your higher self. And so I tell people to pray in the shower. It's the most time you're the most vulnerable. You're naked in there, and it's just you, hopefully. And that's the time that you should have this conversation with your inner self. And so I think if people gave themselves the gift of praying, even when they're brushing their teeth or washing their hands or in the shower, it will set their day for the rest of the day in such a positive way.
Now, when you say your higher self, are we talking to ourselves, or are we talking to our spirit guides, our angels, the deity that we believe in?
Yes, we are talking to all of it. I call it the God of your understanding, because each of us have our own path to what we think is God, and then instead of having that religion's dogma, I say it's the God of your understanding. And so that higher self is that God of your understanding. And it may be the angels, it may be the spirit guides, it could be Ganesh or whomever it is, but it's the self that higher being that knows who you are at the deepest core of who you are. And each of us have our own, as each of us have spirit guides, and each of us also have our own angels. And so it's really who you decide you want to call it. It could be Joe if you want it to be Joe.
I get you. So what are some of the useful practices that you follow? And like, you do everything, and can you give us a little bit of an example of each of these practices?
Sure. Well, it all kind of developed in such an organic way. I didn't really do anything. For instance, I think it was all the reading that I did when I was a child that got me prepared for being a medium, being a psychic. I originally just started, like I said, reading tarot cards, and I became a spiritual practitioner in order to combine those things, because to me, tarot cards are spiritual counseling. And as I went deeper with that, with my spiritual practice, my intuition got stronger. And then I was able to connect on such a much more deeper level with my mediumship. to the point where I can give people names and dates and places to their passed on loved ones. And those kind of confirmations and those type of energies really excite people into understanding. And so some of the things that the practices I use, like I said, prayer, but also meditation. I'm also a certified yoga teacher, so I also love taking yoga classes because it's really about connecting to yourself. One of my other favorite things is walking on the beach or being in nature in some way, because it's that connection again to the universal energy that really allows us to listen with our heart and not our ears. And that's really what it's all about, is that inner listening, but also that inner dialogue. And so as a spiritual teacher, I encourage people to have spiritual practices because, right in the word spiritual is the word ritual, which means a practice, something you do every single day. And the word inspired or inspiration is the word spirit. So I encourage people, what is your inspiration? What is your ritual? What are you willing to do on a daily basis to give yourself and have the life that you want and deserve? It's not just about me being a medium and a psychic. It's really about me also helping you help yourself so you can start to develop your own intuition and listen to that higher self or the God of your understanding and how you'd like to.
Do you believe that you were chosen for the path that you're on, or was this something that you as an individual had to do?
I think it's a little bit of both, and I'll tell you why, Rob. I do believe that certain people are chosen, but not in a way that makes us special. It's because we have listened. And I'll tell you, there was this one time in my life when it made no sense whatsoever for me to cross the street. But something told me, cross the street. And I'm like, why? It's raining. I don't want to cross the street. I have to go across traffic. And it was in that moment that something told me, because you listen, now we can talk to you. And the other thing is, too, again, it's like coming home. When people have passed on, they say they're coming to the light and they feel like they're home. It's because we are. This is who we truly are, spiritual beings, not just human doings. We're spiritual beings, and we're coming back into the center of ourselves. I do study A Course in Miracles. I study science of mind. I surround myself with positive reading and the movies that I watch and the conversations that I have. Those are really the practices that I incorporate. Also how I eat and, how I sleep and what I drink. And all of these things really play a role in who we are. Like they say, meat lowers the vibration, and I'm not advocating being a vegetarian. For each person has their own individual thing, but I do feel that I was chosen for this because I listened, because I decided that this is what I was supposed to do. And I said, okay, if this is the way, show me. And I went from being a waitress and a hostess in Key West to being on a TV show in Kiev and coming in third as representing the United States in Kiev, Ukraine. So I know that this is my path, and I embrace it through the ups and the downs and the ins and the outs, because I know I'm being guided, as we all are.
So what are your religious beliefs? Do you believe in God?
I do believe in God. And again, I believe in the God of my understanding. And to me, the God of my understanding is, this amazing energy that created the universe, that created everything. I don't believe it's a guy sitting in the clouds. I do believe that it's Buddha, it's Jesus, it's the birds, it's the plant, it's the oceans, it's the planets. I believe that God is everything, and we are a part of that everything. And I think the sooner we get connected to that energy, the better we all are.
What are some of the common myths when it comes to psychics and mediums?
Well, there was unfortunate Miss Chloe or Madam Chloe.
Oh,
or
yeah.
Cleo, I'm sorry,
Madam Cleo, yeah.
That, they're out to get money. And I have clients that come to me and said, oh, this woman told me I had this dark spirit, and if I gave her $500 and work with her for 2 weeks, that she could get it for me. Those things, they really do. I send those type of people love and light because they'll have the karma of having to balance what they've created. And the other thing is that we're witches or that we are charlatans. I've been called almost every name in the book, and I'm a very spiritual person. I spend most of my day praying and meditating and reading and writing.
Right.
And so some of the myths are these old stories that have come from, it's like the Wizard of Oz or, the Wicked Witch from the Wizard of Oz, that we all have these, and that the tarot are, devil cards and all these different things. Really, they are just stereotypes. And when people don't know something, they go with the flow.
Well, am I correct? Am I correct in saying that different practitioners of mediumship and of psychic work use such tools as a crystal ball, as the cards, as tools to help them with their messaging?
So yes and no. And
Okay.
I'll say yes and no because of this. The reason I say yes is because I know for certain that if I started telling you all these things about your life and could not show you something, it would really freak you out. And so the tarot cards, for instance, for me, are kind of a visual to show people where I got the information. I don't need the tarot cards, and I use them, like I said, as visual. Because it would scare people if I just started saying, and your grandfather died when you were 13, and this is your next path, and
Right.
you should have been a doctor or a nurse, and they're like, how do you know all this? The tarot and the different other tools that give people, oh, that's where she got it from. And then no, like I've just said, I really don't need it. When I'm tapped into someone's spirit, it's our spirits communicating. So it's not coming from me, it's coming through me, and I'm being your messenger.
Have you ever tried to communicate with a spirit on the other side and you just couldn't make the connection?
I did in the past, and I'll tell you why, and I couldn't make the connection because I was trying too hard and I was allowing my ego to take over.
Oh.
Now, after so many more years of practice and allowing myself to listen and to trust what I am receiving, now, no. I'll give you a perfect example.
All right, why don't we wait for the example until we come back from this commercial break with the news I have to take. Exo Nation, our guest this hour is Tonya Melendez. Her website is www.tarotlifecoach.com. And she also has a blog spot at thesirenandsage.blogspot.com. And Tonya and I will be back on the other side of this commercial break with the news as the X Zone continues with yours truly, Rob McConnell, from our broadcast center in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada, and around the world on the X Zone Broadcast Network, our broadcast affiliates, our internet affiliates, and our satellite program providers. Send me your emails. I love getting them, and I reply to each and every one of them. My email address is xzone@xzoneradiotv.com. I'll be back on the other side of this break. Don't go away. Welcome back, everyone. This is the X Zone. I am Rob McConnell. My guest this hour is Tonya Melendez. And Tonya is more gifted in many ways from her faithful spiritual practice as a teacher and a student, allowing her continual growth and new understanding in how to be of service through her writing, teaching, speaking, and various media outlets, including television. And her website is www.tarotlifecoach.com, and she also has a blog spot at www.thesirenandsage.blogspot.com. Now, Tonya, before we went to the break, I had asked you, have you ever tried to connect with somebody on the other side, but for some reason they're just not answering?
Yeah, Rob, and I'm so glad that you asked that question. So the example that I was going to give is I had a client who was really wanting to connect with her mother, and she just wasn't able to connect to her mother. And she had gone to quite a few psychics and mediums and to connect with her mother. And I realized that after speaking with her that they had a very strained relationship, and that she was feeling guilty and she was feeling bad, and she was holding on to all this energy, which was stopping her flow of being able to hear her mother. Now, what I said earlier is that I know I'm talking spirit to spirit, and so I was able to speak with her mother. However, her mother wasn't ready to speak with her only because she hadn't forgiven herself, and she wasn't going to be able to listen to the messages. So it's that kind of thing where sometimes the person isn't ready, and a lot of times that happens with either suicide or a sudden death, and it makes it a little difficult for people to have that instant connection. But then there's other times when I met a woman standing in a store, actually, and we had this amazing connection, like, don't I know you from somewhere? And she's like, no, I don't think I ever met you. And I said, I feel like I know you. And I explained to her what kind of work I did, and I said, I've got to tell you, there's a man standing behind you, and his name is Captain Jack. And she just burst into tears because she said, that's my grandfather. And I said, yeah, I know, he's standing right behind her. And I had been in the store for a while. She calls back to the store 5 minutes later and calls to speak to me to tell me that she had called her dad because she had never known her grandfather's nickname was Captain Jack. And so there's the times when it could be shut down because of the spirit that is not ready to receive the message, or when people are really open, it can be very clear. So it's really about what the person I'm talking to, what they're holding on to, what's their stuff. And so that's where the spiritual counseling comes in, and sometimes the tarot also helps clear the space for people to open up and allow the messages to flow.
How does reincarnation play into the grand scheme of things?
Oh, such a good question. I believe that we are all reincarnated and that we've been here many, many times. I just watched this very interesting program on this very thing, and it's so interesting that you asked, because I do believe that we've all come into each other's bodies before. Of course, we've been a man, we've been a woman, we've lived in different time periods, and I think it really has to do with our karma. Where are we balanced? Where are we unbalanced? And a lot of time it's also about our fate and destiny. I always say to people that destiny is what we are put here to do in this lifetime, in this body. And fate is what we choose with our free will. And how that comes into reincarnation is when you have unbalanced karma, or if you've done something that needed to be balanced, or were involved in anything that was unbalanced, you are going to come through again. Just like, again, when we have those instant recognitions of, I feel like I know you. And the other thing, the great thing that I always use an example is deja vu. How can you have a memory of somewhere that you've been before and you've never been there, but in your mind you know you've been there before, or you've met this person, or you've been in this experience. That's why it's so amazing when it happens, because you know, I've been here, I've seen this before, where did this come from? And your mind, your logical mind can't wrap its head around it. Your heart and your intuitive side definitely knows that you've been there before. So reincarnation is just a big piece of the universal puzzle, and I think that's what our beloved Einstein and some of our other great thinkers of the past were trying to get us to understand. So
let me ask
I'm
you,
a big nerd.
Oh, I don't think you're a nerd at all. How would we explain then if somebody is reincarnated after they die and they come back to this planet or to any other planet or to any other dimension, wherever they go? If let's say somebody tried to contact that spirit who was already reincarnated, how would you be able to connect with them?
They're going to connect with you in the life that you lived in with them. And someone asked me this question just recently. So you and I are talking right now. There's a reason that me and you are connected. There's a reason that you found me and that we connected and we had to schedule and have these different things. Okay. So if, let's say in our next life, if there's anything that we need to talk about, or I needed to ask Rob a question, or Rob needed to ask Tonya a question from this lifetime, we will be able to tap into this lifetime. Now, Rob might be a great general in some army in Russia in your next lifetime, and I could be your servant. Do you know what I'm saying? And then we would have that connection in that lifetime. So it depends on where you are and what body you're in. And I know it sounds very, it's almost like too woo-woo-wah-ha, you know.
Yeah.
But that's why I say I'm a little bit of a nerd. Again, I go back to my books, being a librarian. I do study these things because it's a very interesting phenomena. And again, it's because our logical minds can't wrap around what our spirit has been telling us. And it goes, like I said, right back to deja vu, or those instant moments where you feel like I know you from somewhere, you know, and you just can't figure it out. And it's because you've been with that spirit before in a different body, and they've been maybe in a different body as well.
All right. Now let me ask you about curses. Are they real?
Oh, I love that you asked me this. After my time in Russia and Ukraine, I have to tell you, I do believe that the power that people put into, and the energy that people put into the words and into the rituals, create an energy. Now, I don't believe in negative energy. I know it's out there, but I don't let it into my force field. However, some people do. And that's when the curse or the black magic becomes true, because anything that you believe in, you create. And so I've been assigned many, many times to people who have asked me to heal their curse, and I said the only curse you need to heal is within and with the story that you keep telling. Stop telling the story. Let it go. So no, I don't believe in curses. I do believe in. I do know that there's black magic and negative energy, and if you keep it away, it'll stay away.
What about negative spirits, demons?
Good question. Demons, I do believe there's negative energy, and I think people invite that in with their negative energy, because we're all vibrating at an energy level anyway. And if you have negative energy around you, you're going to create more of that. I do believe that there are some spirits that have not crossed over, that are lingering, what we say, or in that middle realm, that want to connect. But again, they're not demons. They just don't have anyone to connect with. So they're lost souls, and they want to connect with someone. Again, as a spirit, they're not a negative spirit, but if certain energies, if another dark energy invites in a dark energy, you're going to create more dark energy. And so that's why I think that people working with dark magic and things like that have to be very, very careful, because like the saying says, if you wish it, it'll come true either way, good or bad.
What would you consider to be your greatest accomplishment in the work that you do?
I will have to say that was being a part of the International Psychic Challenge in Kiev. A lot of people were so excited for me because it was a TV show and it was, broadcast all over Europe. But for me, it was such a deep spiritual practice. And, of course, being in another country, not knowing a language, I felt like an immigrant. And, I was. I was there for 7.5 months. And I could truly say that I was touched by the love of people, and knowing that I was doing something to help people, to tie up those loose ends, to heal their hearts from the pain of losing someone and didn't know how they died or why they died, and being able to help people that are in so much pain. And I think in a place like Kiev, where they've been even right now in conflict with Russia, and they've had this darkness and despair for so many years, to have someone come and give them a little bit of shining hope, I feel like that was one of my greatest accomplishments. Again, with not letting my ego get in the way of saying, oh, you're on TV, you think you're special. It was a deep spiritual practice for me to remind myself all the time what an honor it was to be helping, doing what I love to do with people who needed it the most. So I'm definitely the type of person that will go to the places where nobody else will go, because I'm here to shine and serve, and this is a gift that I was given, and it's not for myself. It's to share.
Has mediumship changed over the years, or has it been the way it is now throughout time?
I think it has shifted a lot. I think because there's a lot of people that claim to be channels and people that claim to be mediums or take classes. I think a true medium, and again, I'm not discouraging or disparaging anyone, but I think a true medium is someone who is deeply connected to a spiritual practice, but also allows themselves to be a channel, because they are channeling information not only through themselves, but as themselves. And so it is a giving up quite a bit. I will tell you, I was told, and I always say it's they, but I was told to stop eating meat because it lowered my vibration. And as soon as I stopped eating meat, I got more information. I got more sensitive. I got more connected. And so there is that a little, I don't want to call it a sacrifice, but there are, like you asked me earlier, are there, practices and things that you have to do? Absolutely. I can't go to the bar every night, drink and smoke and, be a party girl and say, oh, I'm a psychic medium and say that I'm using my gifts, and I never studied for this. And so I really do just allow whatever's going to come up. And I have definitely surprised myself sometimes how clear things are, because again, I know I'm a channel, and I keep myself open as a channel.
What's it like going through an airport or a train station or a busy shopping center, having your abilities, your gifts? Are you interrupted by spirits to communicate with people that you're passing by?
Sometimes, yes, but because I'm a big believer in crystals, and I have a very solid meditation and prayer practice every morning. So the first thing I do is surround myself with a violet flame of Saint Germain, because I didn't realize for many years that you can be a leaky psychic, that you could be leaking. Yeah, you could be leaking out your energy, and people will come up to me. It was the most interesting thing. When I was in, I'll say it again, in Kiev, I had people who couldn't talk to me because of a language barrier come up to me, complete strangers, and just want to sit near me and be around me. And that's when I realized that I was leaking my energy, because people would tell me people are just drawn to you. Now, being drawn to you and then wanting to connect with me on a deeper level are two different things. And so I started to really start protecting myself because of my sensitivities. And I was so empathic. Also, if I saw someone sad, I would become sad, or I'd start crying, or angry and things like that. So yes, you do have to protect yourself if you're highly sensitive. I do believe in crystals and, all this amazing stuff. So I do believe in psychic protection, absolutely, because I would go nuts, I think.
Well, we wouldn't want that. Tonya, please stand by. You and I have to take our final break for this hour. Exonation, Tonya Melendez is our special guest. www.tarotlifecoach.com, and her blogspot is thesirenansage.blogspot.com. And we'll be back on the other side of this commercial break as we wrap up this hour here in the X Zone from our broadcast center in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada. Always love getting your emails. Don't forget, my email address is xzone@xzoneradiotv.com. My name is Rob McConnell. This is the X Zone. We'll be back shortly. Don't go away. Welcome back, everyone. Our guest this hour is Tonya Melendez. Her website is www.tarotlifecoach.com, and her blog is thesirenansage.blogspot.com. All right, young lady, let's talk about connecting with your spirit. How do we do it?
The first thing I have to say is you have to be really ready, because, for far too long, I feel that people have told themselves all the things that they're not. And so trying to tell yourself something that you are feels wrong. And, it's like saying I love you in the mirror and looking at yourself in the mirror. That can be very, very difficult. And that's one of the first places you need to start, is really by loving yourself, because we don't love ourselves enough. We love everybody else. We love all these things on the outside, but we really got to take a good look on the inside. And that's really where connecting to your intuition, developing your psychic sense, and all these other things will really start to flourish when you allow yourself to see yourself as the love light that you really are.
And, of course, if you can't love yourself, no one else will either.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And it's like I said, it's that coming back home. It's that, allowing your life to shift around who you know that you are, instead of the lies and the stories that we've told ourselves over and over and over, and that society and the world have told us too. So it's that coming home, coming back to yourself.
What is your message for the X Zone Nation tonight?
My message for the X Zone Nation tonight is my tagline. It's dream, believe, and manifest, because you've got to have those dreams, and you've got to believe them with your whole heart and your whole spirit so they can manifest in your life. And that's the reason I came up with that tagline, because I want everybody to have the life that they love and that they deserve.
But one thing about a dream, you have to work to make it happen. It will not happen without you taking the initiative and maintaining the hard work and keeping that dream alive. Because once you let that dream die, it's gone. The difference between a dream and reality is making it happen. And I think so many people who believe in manifestation forget that, because it's a very important part. You need to work on it. If you just put that picture of that beautiful house or that car on the fridge and you look at it, unless you work your butt off or unless you'll win the lottery, that house, that car is not going to be yours. Listen, Tonya, I've got to say so long with you for tonight. I want to thank you so much for joining us. Let our listeners know how they can find out more about you and how they can contact you.
Thank you so much again for this amazing opportunity and interview. And my website is www.tarotlifecoach.com. I also wanted to let you know I am running a little bit of a special just for the X-Zone listeners, so send me an email at tarotlifecoach@gmail.com, and you will get a discount if you just mention X-Zone. So thank you so much, Rob, for this amazing opportunity.
You take care of yourself. Look forward to speaking to you again in the future. Until then, stay safe.
Thank you.
Bye-bye now. Tonya
Bye-bye.
Melendez has been my guest this hour. X-Zone Nation, once again, her website is tarotlifecoach.com. I'll be back on the other side of this commercial break with the news at 6.5 minutes past the top of the hour as we continue here in the X-Zone from our broadcast center in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada. www.xzoneradiotv.com is where you can listen to our show 24/7, 365. I'll be back. Don't go away.